and the five-knuckle shuffle in a very entertaining vignette, and that allowed Jackson to motivate children to pick up a book and spend 15 to 20 minutes daily reading. And I think that WWE reaching out to kids through using networks like Disney and Nickelodeon, making the occasional appearances at the Disney and Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards, is a wonderful way to help increase promotion, and it's nice to see WWE not only working with Disney, but also working with Nickelodeon. We saw The Miz and Justin Bieber do that vignette at the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards a while back, and most recently The Big Show was lent on the part of WWE to the Nickelodeon's Kids' Choice Awards, which was showcased on the Nickelodeon Network in the United States and Youth Television in Canada, YTV. I think that it's wonderful to see WWE lending their superstars to networks like Disney and Nickelodeon, and I hope they continue to do that. In the past, we have seen the Great Khali involved with numerous feature films. One that you might remember the Great Khali from was his involvement with The Longest Yard film starring Adam Sandler, which also featured Stone Cold Steve Austin doing somewhat of a cameo. And that movie, I think, would catapult Stone Cold Steve Austin into making several movies such as The Condemned, Damaged, and most recently starring in The Expendables. I think that there are a lot of feature films yet to come from Stone Cold Steve Austin, as he says he's closed the door on his professional wrestling career despite his recent involvement with the reality show Tough Enough, and looks to embark on things such as movies and other ventures. I think that Stone Cold Steve Austin and the Great Khali teaming up to help Adam Sandler out with The Longest Yard from TriStar Pictures was a phenomenal venture for the two of them, and it allowed us to see a very entertaining side of the Great Khali, and we've seen the entertaining side of the Great Khali develop over time in WWE. He's made that transition from being a dominant heel who made a reputation for himself by taking out The Undertaker, Batista, and John Cena into a very entertaining person. I mean, he's got that kiss cam, and he's got his translator Ranjan Singh, who still vows to this day that he's the actual biological brother of the Great Khali, given his size differentiality from the Great Khali. I'm still debating whether or not that's actually a work or not, but I believe it is. But I think that the Great Khali definitely has made a transition from being a very dominant heel, from making a reputation for himself by destroying The Undertaker, John Cena, and Batista, and sort of picking on them into a very entertaining individual. We haven't seen the kiss cam done for quite some time on WWE, but I believe when it was around, and it was used as vignettes in between matches, and it was also used on WWE.com as somewhat of an extra on Raw and SmackDown, I think it was absolutely phenomenal. And the fact that they were able to incorporate an actual translator into his gimmick to give the fans somewhat of an insight into what the Great Khali was saying when he was speaking in that tone that he speaks in, I think it's absolutely phenomenal that he's doing it. Now, a lot of people think maybe Ranjan Singh necessarily isn't needed to coincide with the Great Khali gimmick, but I think he is doing a wonderful job helping the Great Khali out. He provides his own form of entertainment along with the Great Khali, and I think they're a tremendous combination. They're probably one of the best manager-wrestler combinations since The Undertaker or Paul Bearer, or even Umaga and Armando Estrada, who were a decisive part of the WWE storylines back in 07-08 before the tragic passing of Umaga. I think they're definitely up there with people like Armando Estrada and Umaga. Probably not so much like Ted DiBiase and the $1 Million Corporation and The Undertaker and Paul Bearer were as far as manager-wrestler status goes, but I think they were up there with people like Umaga and Armando Estrada. And Umaga, of course, was a former #1 contender on more than one occasion for the WWE Championship, and he also had the privilege of working with people like Batista and CM Punk before his passing. CM Punk was one of the final programs that Umaga had the privilege of working before he tragically passed away, and a number of wrestlers were on HEW Entertainment commenting on that very briefly. I enjoyed seeing the Great Khali working in matches with John Cena. I enjoyed seeing the Great Khali working in matches with Batista, and I also enjoyed the Punjabi prison match that himself and The Undertaker had back in 06, which kind of put a cap on the whole Undertaker Great Khali angle on SmackDown back in 06. It was really the only thing WWE Creative had for The Undertaker to do back in '06. Maybe it was because of a lack of creative control and creative thinking when it came to The Undertaker, but in '06 I think The Undertaker had reached a point in his career where he had virtually done everything there is to do. He had competed in casket matches, Hell in a Cell matches, Rest in Peace matches, First Blood matches. He was a Royal Rumble King of the Ring Award winner. There was virtually nothing for him to do, so I think that with the lack of creative thinking that came towards The Undertaker, the only thing for them to do was to book him in a program with the great Khali. And I think that when he made his debut alongside Daivari when he first premiered, I think that he did a wonderful job doing it, and him and The Undertaker really got over to the SmackDown audience at a number of house shows and a number of WWE SmackDown tapings. And he's also got a former world title reign to his credit as well. The great Khali is a former world champion. Following an injury sustained by Batista, the great Khali picked up the ball and bounced it in his own court, and as a result, he took the WWE World Heavyweight Championship from Batista. Batista would later return, and the two of them would engage in a very entertaining program. The only real career accomplishment that the great Khali has had is the World Heavyweight Championship run he had on the SmackDown side of things, and he had the opportunity to work with John Cena and Batista, who at the time were the two biggest names that WWE were marketing. Now, John Cena, with the departure of Batista, still continues to be WWE's biggest name and biggest draw, and that's not surprising to me at all. But I think that the great Khali's greatest career accomplishments and greatest career attributes, can be credited for his size and his ability to entertain as an entertaining heel, and that allowed him to work with people like John Cena and Batista, who, as I said, were WWE's biggest draw nearly 5 or 6 years ago. But I think that that allowed the great Khali to really evolve into the superstar that he is today, and knowing that he's continuing his WWE career through making appearances on Disney Channel and Nickelodeon, and helping promote WWE Kids and WWEKids.com is a phenomenal venture for WWE to go about. The Rock's recent film, Fast and Furious 5, generated $86 million, and before that, before The Rock started making action movies again, he had made several movies for Disney. Some of them included The Game Plan, where he co-starred with Madison Payne, a co-star on Corey in the House, a show that was an extension off of That's So Raven, and he was also in that movie Race to Witch Mountain, the remake from the movie that was done, I believe, back in the early 80s. I think that The Rock and John Cena really paved the way for future WWE superstars to work with Disney. I know they have lended several superstars in the past to Disney to work on a number of different projects, like the Miracle Wish Foundation project they had going back in the 90s, and several other projects, but never before had WWE lent their superstars in terms of acting to WWE. And I think that the fact that they lent their superstars for the first time to shows like Hannah Montana and Wizards of Waverly Place really allowed WWE to branch out to kids and reach out to kids more through the messages that were conveyed in the show, like sending John Cena down there as a wrestler who came out of a wrestling magazine and promoted the fact that reading would benefit you later on in life to young children, was an absolutely phenomenal way to do that. The Rock didn't really convey somewhat of a message to the Disney audience, but I think that he provided some more of an entertaining element. I think that WWE not making reference to the fact that both John Cena and The Rock were involved with Disney in the midst of the Rock-John Cena feud, which is currently going on right now, is somewhat bizarre to me that they haven't acknowledged that. Now, they did acknowledge Race to Witch Mountain, which was a Disney production that The Rock had starred in. John Cena is credited for doing that, but they didn't really go in depth about it. But in the past, we have seen John Cena and The Rock involved with Disney, and currently right now The Rock has generated $86 million courtesy of his involvement alongside Ludacris and Ben Diesel for the Fast and Furious 5. And in the Fast and Furious 5, there's a very entertaining brawl that ensues between The Rock and Ben Diesel, which was highly anticipated. Prior to that, we have seen The Rock and Brendan Fraser mix it up in The Mummy Returns. The Rock's on-screen battles still remain to be legendary. to some extent, but you can catch The Rock in the Fast and Furious 5 alongside Ludacris and Vin Diesel, who are his co-stars in the final chapter of the Fast and Furious series, and you might want to go back and take a look at the previous 4 installments of the Fast and Furious saga before you check that one out to get a better idea of what the Fast and Furious is really all about. But if you haven't already done so, definitely subscribe to Disney XD. If you have no information on how you can do that, you can go to Disney.com and click on the television tab at the top of the website. Also included there are information on some of the Disney shows. Also included there are information on the Disney video games and Disney DVD releases. And for upcoming Disney DVD releases, you can go to DisneyDVD.com. You get an idea of what's currently available on Blu-ray and DVD and what are upcoming releases in the very near future. The release calendar is available on Disney.com. You can also go to Disney.com to find out how you can subscribe to Disney XD and that network. I think it is a phenomenal extension off of Disney Channel, and knowing that the great Khali is involved with Disney and Disney XD is an extreme privilege, I think, on WWE's part to lend the great Khali to Disney, just as they have John Cena and The Rock in the past. And in conclusion, I would like to say that I hope that Disney and WWE continue their working relationship despite all the derogatory comments that the commentators and the wrestlers have made towards Disney. I think it is all in an effort to promote the ongoing projects between both Disney and WWE, and I think we're going to see more of that in the very